In the outdoor storage yards of the Kyiv Armored Vehicles Plant, acres of Soviet-era tanks, specifically T-64s and T-72s, sit idle beneath heavy industrial cranes. Decades of exposure to the elements and systematic cannibalization for spare parts have reduced these machines to little more than scrap metal. Keeping a single legacy tank in battle-ready condition requires constant oiling, bleeding, and cleaning, running up a maintenance bill of roughly 2,000 hryvnia per day. Over 25 years, that cumulative economic burden forced the military to abandon thousands of these hulls to the elements. The obvious alternative to maintain this aging fleet is to replace it entirely. Modern production lines are fully capable of manufacturing advanced platforms like the T-34 Oplet, which carries a unit cost of approximately $4.9 million. Yet, rather than fielding a military entirely composed of brand new vehicles, defense logistics teams are actively pulling these rusted Soviet hulls out of the mud to strip them down and rebuild them from scratch, taking a corroded 40-year-old CHASS and integrating it with modern combat systems requires engineering teams to invert the industrial logic that originally produced these vehicles. This retrieval effort is a calculated macroeconomic strategy that weaponizes the sheer scale of past Soviet manufacturing against modern logistical constraints. To understand the physical limitations baked into these hulls, we have to trace Soviet tank doctrine back to its origins during the Second World War, when hull factories were urgently relocated east of the Ural Mountains. Facing severe material shortages, production facilities relied on raw, unpainted metal finishes and simplified assemblies, using displaced, unskilled workers to push vehicles onto the battlefield as fast as possible. The engineering calculus was simple. Crew ergonomics and long-term mechanical reliability were deliberately discarded to maximize sheer production volume. The exact consequences of these design choices were documented in 1942, when the U.S. military conducted a technical audit of a production model T-34 at the Aberdeen Proving Ground. This cross-section schematic illustrates the failing air filtration system. The inadequate filter drew in fine dust, destroying the engine after just 343 kilometers. Moving down the drivetrain, we see the obsolete transmission. Because the steel was poorly heat-treated, gear teeth sheared off under operational torque. The hull itself was manufactured with excessively hardened steel. While this prioritized shattering incoming 37mm rounds, the brittle plates lacked ductility, meaning non-penetrating hits would cause fragments of metal to flake off inside the crew compartment. None of these mechanical deficiencies were accidents. They were deliberate design choices optimized for high-attrition warfare, where a tank's expected operational lifespan was measured in weeks, not years. Decades later, modern refurbishment facilities face the challenge of upgrading that same underlying mass production architecture to contemporary precision standards. The process begins with a structural integrity check. Engineers must verify that the base steel of the hull hasn't been weakened by rust or structural cutting during its years in the storage yard. Once the steel is cleared, the vehicle is entirely stripped. Teams extract all degraded non-ferrous metals and rip out the outdated analog Soviet wiring harnesses. The physical limitations of Soviet doctrine create a massive bottleneck here. The original chassis was engineered to minimize the tank's external silhouette, leaving cramped internal dimensions for modern upgrades. On this 3D wireframe, the seized legacy engine block highlights in red and is extracted, making room for a modernized diesel power plant in blue. Moving to the turret, spatial tolerances become extreme. Engineers must thread modern sensors and digital nodes into a restrictive geometry. This refurbishment forces multi-decade reliability and precision onto a chassis that was originally conceived as a disposable short-term wartime commodity. Given the severe geometric constraints, and the intense labor required to strip and rebuild these machines, it raises an obvious question. Why not simply field newly manufactured tanks? State defense holdings already possess the capability to build from scratch, producing advanced assets like the T-34 Oplet M. The constraint is purely financial. Deploying a newly built Oplet to a domestic frontline unit absorbs the massive liquid value it holds on the international export market. Exporting just one of these newly manufactured platforms generates $4.9 million in capital. This flowchart demonstrates the economic multiplier effect. Selling a single tank for $4.9 million divides that capital into 10 equal streams. Each fractional stream fully covers the parts and labor required to strip, repair, and modernize a rusted legacy T-34 hull. By utilizing this capital flow military, planners can field 10 reliable sensor-equipped platforms for the price of one. It effectively secures the raw volume of Soviet industrial scale while maintaining the operational reliability of modern Western standards. The production logic of these two eras stands in total opposition. World War II relied on rapid bare metal assembly lines designed to replace massive daily losses, while today's retrofits demand slow, painstaking subsystem integration. Those original blueprints were drafted for a meat grinder. The engineers knew that investing in long-term reliability was a waste of resources when survival on the front lines was statistically unlikely. Contemporary armored warfare completely rejects that math. Today, a tank's survival is dictated by high-fidelity optical sensors, digital fire control, and first-strike accuracy, rather than sheer volume or raw plate thickness. The result is a logistical irony. Modern defense industries are stripping thousands of abandoned hulls from Soviet storage yards to fight a high-tech precision war against